doing the work really well, but from the district office point of view, how do we make this the work of our system, and how do we do the work as a system so that it goes from the district office right down into the classroom. So this graphic up here, and that's the strategy that I'm going to share with you today, the use of this graphic that really depicts the role of the central office, the role of the principal and the team leaders, right down to those collaborative teams. We say in our district that we shouldn't be asking the teachers to do things that we ourselves are not willing to do or we haven't even tried. So we begin like this. So if you go to the far left-hand side, the kind of the red-orange section there, you're going to see the district office and the principal teams. So the very first thing that we do, we have learning meetings as a group, okay? We write our norms, all right? How are we going to be able to operate? We're going to focus on learning in those meetings versus it being nuts and bolts kinds of things. We had this chat one day really realizing that we had all the leaders in the district in that room, and we were focusing on information-only level discussions, all right? It was just nuts and bolts, much like the staff that ends up rolling their eyes wanting to get out of there so that they can go back to work. Also, the things that we do in these meetings, we begin by anticipating the questions that happen to be involved in the work that we're doing. So for example, when we began to analyze the common assessment work, we didn't say to the teams in the schools, oh, it's a good idea, you should be analyzing the results of your common assessments. We started analyzing those results at the district office first. We tried to anticipate the questions that the teams would have. You know, is this for Rick because he's the superintendent? Or how, you know, what questions are those building teams going to have? We begin to practice and rehearse that work together. For example, when we're looking at those assessment results, what protocols are we going to use? Let's apply those protocols. Let's maybe work some of the kinks out here as a group so that when the building principal goes back to the building, so we're going to begin now here with that school level leadership team. And those leadership teams at a high school, kind of the old days of the department chair, they're now strictly focused on learning. At an elementary school, that might be the kindergarten leader, the first grade leader. When they begin working with their leadership teams, what are they doing? The exact same thing that we've been working on in the district office with our principal teams. So they're going to come back with their leadership team. Maybe I'm going to ask Jack, as a representative of third grade, to bring some assessment results from their last look at their data. And we would begin as a team to apply the protocols to be able to do the same exact work that we did in our team with the district office. Now, as these team leaders then work with their teams, they're absolutely clear on what we're asking them to do, all right? Versus oftentimes teams are at tables and they're wondering, what are we supposed to do here? All right? This is a waste of our time. We don't understand what they want. We've essentially taken that off the table because we've practiced it and rehearsed it at the district office. We've anticipated the questions the teachers might have. We've worked out some of those bumps. It then goes back into the school level all the way down into the teams. So this visual creates the work, but oftentimes people say, well, what does this look like? What are those meetings? What's actually really happening in those meetings? So I'm going to show you a series of video clips that starts from a principal district office meeting. This whole string of video clips that you're going to see this year, we've spent a lot of time working on grading, reporting, homework, feedback, those kinds of things. So you'll see that flavor of the conversation from the district office meeting to the high school team meeting to a department talking about their particular struggles with the work that we're doing. Now, another piece of the work that we're doing is really looking at our data as a system every 6 to 8 weeks versus oftentimes just paying attention to our summative assessment data and then being surprised that our kids didn't do very well or being surprised that they did do well and we're not really sure what to attribute it to. We're now having those data meetings, and you'll be able to see what those meetings look like as well. So here we go.
A student came to me about maybe 6 weeks into the semester and wanted me to
Inside that work. The next piece is there's just this constant feedback loop in the district about what we're struggling with and what we want to all put our heads around. And the next clip will be the questions that came to me that we're all working on solving. So you'll hear the discussion there.
Our question was number 2, should late work be accepted, and if so, should it be penalized? We just wanted to say yes and no. But it's a paradigm shift, because I think this is something that we've wrestled with, and many teachers are interested in how to really make this work. But you have to really first buy into the idea that you don't grade everything, that it's okay not to give points for every piece of paper that crosses your desk. And so that's a big piece. And then also, as we align our pacing and our assessments, this becomes easier and easier, because we're giving deliberate work that measures students' progress toward a specific standard. I think many times we're giving other things. And so as we become more deliberate with what we're asking our students to do, then it narrows kind of the scope of the work we're grading and putting into the grade book. We talked about the teacher-centered versus student-centered classroom, and that if we're allowing them to continue to turn things in, that's very student-centered, where sometimes we're asking them just to be compliant and do the work, and it bothers us if they don't, and that's very teacher-centered. We agree that it should be accepted, and it's not a, what was the word you used, kind of free-for-all.
Okay, so that's at the administrative level, having those conversations. We're now going to go to the middle column on your graphic, where we say, what does this really look like when we get down to the school? You'll see a quick video clip of Mike Hagedon, the high school principal, talking about what they're going to be discussing that day, and then it'll go right to the discussion of the group.
What we want to do is kind of get a sense of where we are in each of our departments with grading.
About this for just a second. What we learned inside this work is there are no easy answers. So when the math department was struggling, we had to go back and build shared knowledge again. So we went to Rick Wormley's book, Fair Isn't Always Equal. And there's a chapter in there titled Conditions to Redo Work. So the entire department studied that chapter. We actually had a phone conversation with Rick Wormley about this. And then as a team, their learning community came up with the conditions for kids to be able to redo work. Now you're hearing on this team that there's still people arguing about, is it 80%, is it 100%, how many times? They're still working those pieces out together. But that's the discussion, and that's Cody talking from the math department.
For me, the grading issue has been all of it put together. None of it in isolation made a whole lot of sense to me when I first...
Was for the voice from the English department. I think there's one. Oh, this is a piece from a data meeting, and it's a reflection piece.
Had some insightful comments.
Okay, so this strategy of being able to see the visual, to talk about what the work really is that the district is doing, and then show them the video clips of this is what it looks like inside our district, and this is how we're moving through this work. So it's not just one school making progress, that it's all of us working on this together and sharing in the struggles and the successes and the strategies that we're using with our kids. So at your tables, I just want you to take a minute and talk about, would these visuals help you as you're working with school districts across the country, and just the examples of having those videos there to be able to see whether you're pulling things from the video series or your own district or work that you're doing. I gave you, or should be on your tables, is just a look at what an agenda at those administrative meetings really look like. Oftentimes you'll see there's just 3 or 4 things that we're working on. I think this particular one, we were working on homework, talking about, where does it fit? What do effective homework practices look like? But the clear piece here is there's not a bunch of agenda items. We didn't email out and try to fill the agenda, all right? We had a course for our work for the year. The principals know what the course is so that they can do the planning inside their own buildings. But someone in the district needs to limit what gets put on this agenda, all right? Oftentimes, and it's really the superintendent, I find that causes, I mean, he'll say, Janelle, I just need 20 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. Well, 20 minutes is never 20 minutes. It's usually 40, and then you end up leaving off the things that are very important. So I'll say to Tom, you know what, how about at the end of the meeting today? If we have time, that's a great spot for it, or we shoot him an email at the end. But someone has to be in control of that. In this work at the district office, Richard Elmore talks about reciprocal accountability, all right? If we want those kids in the classrooms learning, what do the teachers need to be doing? If we want the teachers to be growing and stretching, what needs to be happening with the building principal as far as supporting those teacher team needs? But also at the district office, what should you be doing that will actually help those building principals do this work out in their buildings? Oftentimes I think we tell them what to do, but showing them, engaging them in the work and learning from each other often gets skipped. So, any questions?